All right, how's it going, everybody? My name is Kevin Asani. I am the Progressive Blacksmith, and this is going to be the first airing of my show called Ironing It Out. We're going to be ironing out all the details on all the progressive political issues going on out in the world, in America, anywhere we want to talk about. So we're going to talk to my good friend here, Scott. And he
Hello.
wanted to he wanted to come on my show, and I really appreciate him putting out the offer. So we're gonna get started here. How's it going, Scott?
Good. I appreciate the invite. I think you kind of called my bluff. I just kind of put it out there,
Yeah,
jokingly. Um, I didn't know if I expected you to actually take me up on it because I'm primarily a nerd stuff podcaster. I
right.
produce for a podcast network over on twotruefreaks.com. There's my shameless plug.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. We'll definitely plug everything. Yeah, I'll definitely put that in the description box and everything too. But yeah, our conversation mostly started out because of the Alex Jones debacle, basically.
Yeah, I met you in the Twitterverse when that all
Yeah,
blew up.
yeah, and like
Some
that.
lines were drawn, apparently.
It was definitely. I mentioned on one of my videos. I said, I got dropped by so many people on Twitter. Everybody, they were just like, fuck you. We've had enough of you. We don't want to deal with you anymore. You're a Alex Jones bot or whatever, and you're a puppet for Alex Jones. It's such bullshit. But I wanted to get your take on because I don't exactly remember. I've been going at it with so many people. What exactly
Yeah.
was your take on the whole thing?
Man, I think it's still evolving as all things should in these interesting situations. I'm pretty close to being I'm pretty militant when it comes to the First Amendment. I went to journalism school and I had an old school, newspaper professor that used to work for the Detroit Free Press and real Woodward and Bernstein guy. Back in 1991 is when I went. And so he just, railed home the First Amendment and the power of the press to me, daily. So I'm just like completely indoctrinated to that. And it's such a complicated situation. And,
It
and
is.
my main take was, and that's why I was so distressed that the left started eating itself over this, is that my main take wasn't that, maybe Alex Jones shouldn't get taken off some things because that happens all the time. It's the power of the market. If advertisers
Yeah.
get nasty letters, they'll flee a place and people lose their jobs. It happens in radio all the time, not often enough sometimes.
I know.
Um, but so I'm the guy obviously. I mean, I've been listening to Alex Jones for years, just
Yeah.
out of morbid curiosity. From way back in the day when he was just schlepping the UFO stories and things like that. And he's obviously gotten into this storyline where he's just, deep state, and he's gotten real nasty, and people have probably gotten hurt from some of the things he said. So I believe he definitely crosses the line of what's acceptable free speech on probably many occasions. I don't keep that tight of track.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
I love how you mentioned the deep state because the deep state is a real thing. I mean, some people
it,
like
it
to annoy
is.
it. They like to deny it, and they'd be like, "Oh, but that's just a conspiracy." But like, not everything that people think is a conspiracy isn't necessarily just a conspiracy.
Yeah,
It's
the deep state isn't, really the form he likes to think it is, but I
right,
mean, there is shady powers in control of things that
right.
probably shouldn't be, and I can't wonder if that, that's the kind of thing like I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson.
I have
Uh,
not. I've heard of
well, it
it though.
wasn't hugely popular, but it was the kind of thing. It's like it was a crazy cab driver, and I used to be a cab driver, so I relate to
Okay.
that. But he published like this newsletter of wacky conspiracies. He was basically Alex Jones in a taxi,
Right, right.
and eventually he got one of them right, apparently. So then the government came after him.
That's what they do. Yeah.
Yeah. So you never know. I mean, it was more about my position on it. It was more about, well, okay, great. Maybe he does need to be off the air in a couple places, if he's
Yeah.
stepping over the line and getting people hurt. But this is going to give them an excuse to do it more arbitrarily to other
Exactly.
people too.
And
And that's
yeah.
always my biggest fear. I always come down on the side of, the bad guys' rights because I think that's just as important as, coming down as on the side of the good guys. because it's about larger concepts to me. It's about who's going to abuse this power once it's unleashed.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is that this, and just like a lot of us have been talking about, the issue is that it comes down to, so okay, you get rid of Alex Jones. All right, so he's probably the worst character that you can get rid of if you wanted to get rid of him. And the next person can be Jimmy Dore. The person after that could be, Tim Black.
And they've already experienced things like that. I mean, Jimmy Dore and Kyle Kalinske have both got demonetized through the algorithms and stuff. I'm not sure how all that tech stuff works, but for me, it's all about the larger issues, the larger free speech issues. There are technically laws in place to, discipline things like calling, I don't even want to use the fire in a theater because that's people misuse that all the time.
Yeah.
But, saying things like the Sandy Hook people were crisis actors, that legit gets people hurt, or at least makes people, go into hiding, or all you need is that one unstable person to latch onto that, and someone can get hurt.
Yeah, that's actually a weird one, too, because if people get called crisis actors, why are they going after people that are supposedly crisis actors? Like, let's say, whatever, Alex Jones's followers and his cult. They go after him, but, like, what is their goal out of that? Okay, so I'm going to, threaten and, lob some sort of violent, whatever, message or something at this person, and then what's going to happen? It's really stupid, and I don't approve of anything like that. There was another video where he said he wants to burn drag queens alive and stuff.
Yeah, I missed that one, thankfully.
Yeah. I didn't even see it. I just saw the transcript, so I don't even know. I didn't really get a big feeling of it, of how truly vitriolic it was. But as far as what he said, I mean, if you want to take it at face value, I'm sure he denies it. I'm sure he says, it's a conspiracy against me. But you did say it, and I can see how Facebook, because Facebook was, I think, the first one to get rid of him because of that, the first one to deplatform him, and I can see where they were coming from. Like, it's not an easy situation to deal with. This is a very nuanced issue. It's not black and white, but the way it was handled, I don't think it's right in the sense that corporations like Facebook, in this case, get to come out there and just say, okay, well, this person is gone because this person said something that really offended, I don't know who, offended, I guess, the viewers that saw the video and the people that are defenders of the LGBT community. I get it, but I mean, it just creates a slippery slope, and I don't trust that.
Well, the larger issue for me too is just as I said, the arbitrariness of it. Probably isn't even a word. In that, legit, the guy who his Pizzagate conspiracies actually spawned somebody going and shooting up a pizza shop. So I mean, he couldn't write this stuff better for a weird TV show. So stuff like that. But again, I mean, if we're gonna get rid of him, we have to get rid of Fox News, who regularly spews stuff that can incite their audience to violence. Churches, any religion can incite their people to violence on the right day. Every world religion has examples of their followers taking things the violent way. Even things like MSNBC. I mean, you don't think there's at least one MSNBC viewer out there that wouldn't beat up a Bernie bro because he thinks he's a Russian spy. I mean, you really can't just decide, okay, we're going to take this crazy person off the air and leave all the other ones.
And who's going to decide what's really bad, what's not really bad? Who's going to decide, if this is a real violation? So if you're going out there and saying, all these Hillary supporters are going out there saying Russian bot, Bernie bro,
right?
All this, like, so isn't that some form of like defamation? Some form of kind of slandering? I mean, I don't know. The media the mainstream media has normalized it so much.
Yeah, well, we used to have a thing called objective truth in this universe, and apparently that doesn't exist anymore. It's just whatever anyone wants to believe or what anyone's side wants to tell them.
Yeah, and you have to remember that the media wants that. The media wants everybody to be divided because that's how they create controversy.
Oh yeah, even though they're all basically playing for the same team.
But they pretend like they're not on TV. Them. You watch them on TV, they're like, oh yeah, Fox News propaganda, and then Fox News says MSNBC propaganda.
Yeah, CNN fake news.
CNN fake news.
there's no way to. I mean, my old professor in journalism school, as I said, I'm sure well, hopefully he's still around and not rolling around in his grave. I haven't checked on him in a few years, but I'm sure he's. Well, actually, when I started, and I'm a little older, folks, so you're getting a hopefully wizened point of view on these things. But I went to journalism school in '91. And we got in there, and my main professor was basically like, "Welcome to the beginning of the end of journalism. You're picking a really bad time to do this, but we'll
Wow,
try to
even
make
back
the
then,
best
huh?
of it anyway." Yeah.
Even back then, that's crazy.
And I got to kind of see it in real time because we got
Yeah.
the first Gulf War immediately. After I joined school, in 1990 actually, and that was fascinating coursework while it was going on. But he's like, see what's going on here with them trying to control the message and everything, and CNN basically helping them. And he's like, yeah, you're here for the death knell of real journalism, and these 24-hour stations are going to be the catalyst for it.
I'm actually a broadcasting major myself. I studied broadcasting journalism and stuff like that. I also wanted to minor in political science, but that didn't really work out. But I took a lot of political science classes that really taught me a lot about that. Learning about different ideologies. That's what I can't stand when people come out there and talk about communism and socialism and this and Marxism, and you don't even know what the fuck that stuff is. Like, don't try and act like you know what you're talking about. People just want to throw around these ideologies. And
I think it's the nature of social media. You have to have buzzwords to latch onto to kind of instantly explain who you are, as opposed to actually having conversations with people and learning who people are.
Yeah. And because on my Twitter, my Twitter bio, I say that I'm a constitutional progressive.
I like that. That would describe me, I think.
Yeah, because I believe in the First Amendment. I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe that I think you should be able to have a gun. Should you be able to go out there and shoot up a school? No. Should you be able to go, shoot up a nightclub? Obviously not. Nothing like that. But it's like, I do believe that if you take things from people, that they really, I guess, cherish. I'm not a gun person, so I don't get it. I've shot a gun before. I've gone to a gun range, but I don't get it. But that doesn't mean I have to say you can't have that thing. Like, you want to have a gun? That's all you. I mean, it's up to you. I'm not gonna make you do something you don't want to do. And that's what makes me, and I also believe in the right that, in the right that you shouldn't allow the government to come into your property and search your property if they feel like it. No, you have to have a warrant. You have to have a, you can't look into my, with the whole FISA bill and stuff. You shouldn't be allowed to, look into that kind of stuff. And I think that's a reasonable approach. I don't know about you, but I mean, I know.
Oh yeah, no, I think that adequately describes I think us constitutional progressives. I'm stealing that label from you, or at least borrowing it. Kind of the mind that we realize that the Constitution was not written by perfect people, but it's it was written well, and we realize that it's supposed to be an evolving document, that it's not supposed to be set in stone, and it's supposed to be interpreted for the times that we're, in at the time, which is what our judiciary branch is supposed to do, despite everyone thinking that they're just activist judges. No, that's actually their job. And so, I mean, I think you always need to examine what's going on in context as far as the Constitution and things like free speech. And I'm not anti-Second Amendment either. I mean, I pretty much believe in everything they laid down. And we're not really enforcing a lot of the Constitution, in my opinion, as it should be.
I mean, that shit was violated under Bush. It was violated under Obama. Trump is doing it right now. None of these characters. That's what I'm saying. That's why the whole issue with the party label and the loyaltism to party is so bad, because it creates this devotion to one party when a lot of its members are not agreeing on everything. So, you got some progressives in the Democratic Party who are decent, You got obviously somebody like Bernie Sanders. He's not a Democrat, of course. That's perfectly fine with me. I don't care what he is. But
he's not a Democrat? I've never heard that before.
Yeah, yeah, really. Everybody they made it into a fucking hashtag, and all the people on Twitter are mocking it, which is rightfully so because it's a stupid hashtag.
It is.
But that's another story for another day. But these people that are just devoted to the party is just so what did they call it? It's almost like a group think kind of thing.
Well, I call it politics ball.
Politics.
Yeah. And I'm going to throw you a different perspective. I also have a degree actually my only degree is in addictions counseling. Mm-hmm. And what I've watched, social media in general is a flat out scale model of crack addiction. I mean, and I think politics ball is too. And it's just because you feed the same dopamine comes out of your brain, when you get one of those notifications on your Twitter feed, right. As when you do a hit of something, and I think just the whole team mentality is kind of the same thing. People just have an innate craving to be accepted, and it literally does release pleasure hormones, to think that you're part of this group and you're always right, and the more you can be right, the better your brain feels. And it really is. Knowing what I know about addiction, it's just kind of fascinating and very depressing to watch because I don't think a lot of these people realize that they're junkies.
I know. You're addicted to that.
And hi, my name is Scott, and I'm a politics junkie too.
Right,
so
yeah, exactly. I think we're all junkies for something.
Do Politics Ball Anonymous here one of these days.
And a lot of that, it deviates to this hatred of Trump no matter what he does.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guy could come out in favor of puppies and rainbows and all this wonderful stuff, and they're still going to hate.
And he doesn't, though. And so his situation is a little less nuanced than some things, because it's fairly easy to hate Trump. He hasn't really done anything too endearing that I've witnessed yet.
Definitely not. I mean, I just think that a lot of these people that, so like, for example, he recently said, I'm going to go and have a conversation with, the president of Iran without preconditions.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody's like, oh my God, there's a couple of Democrats that came out, oh my God, I can't believe it. That's a terrible idea. Meanwhile, Barack Obama said on the campaign trail when he was facing Hillary Clinton in 2008, said, sure, I'm going to do that. So all of a sudden Trump doing it is something wrong with it. But Obama, when he did it, I mean, they kind of went after him because, Obama was kind of unknown back in the day. Everybody loved Hillary. So, but, eventually they were like, okay with it. And then he went and negotiated the, Iranian nuke deal. And
and he was a hero. He saved the world.
Exactly. And Democrats, they fawned over it. They were like, oh, this is amazing. What a great job by Obama, even though we hated what he did, 6 years ago when he said, I'm going to, have conversations with him, And listen, this is not the same thing as Trump. Trump is a madman. He's a crazy fucking person.
Yeah, I have no confidence in him doing any of these things well.
Me either. Yeah.
But I get where you're coming from. It's so distressing to see the Democrats instantly become war hawks.
I know.
If the opposition, even sniffs towards peace or anything, it's obscene.
Yeah, and that's the party loyalism. That's the politics ball that you talked about. It's just all about being committed to one party because I don't know. I guess you're committed to just following a certain, ideology, not so much ideas. Because if it was down to ideas, you would be in favor of, okay, yeah, let's go have a conversation with this, nuclear power, if you want to call Iran that, and they're dangerous, whatever, dangerous fascist country. But at least we're going to sit down at the table and have a conversation and then see what happens from there. If it doesn't go...
You're a better person than I am. I wouldn't even give it the respect of an ideology. It's just politics ball.
Right.
It's just they're not even thinking it through. A lot of them. We're generalizing.
And maybe the fact that I have family that lives in Iran, maybe I'm a little bit biased.
I can imagine, yeah.
But I'm still looking at it on the principle of the fact that I want to have conversations with people that we may not get along with, just like if we were to go have a conversation with a Trump supporter. Now, I'm not going to go out of my way to do that,
Yeah.
But if they're going to be like, hey, listen, I am in favor of better healthcare, but I'm worried about socialism and communism, then I'm going to be like, listen, this is not socialism and communism. The kind of stuff that I'm pushing for is going to be something that's, like the social democracy. You go to Denmark, you go to Sweden, you go to Iceland, you go to all these Scandinavian countries. That's the kind of stuff we're looking for. We're not looking for something that's going to, we're not looking for Venezuela, booga booga, all of a sudden Venezuela is this big talking point everybody's scared of and freaks out about. It's just like Russia. You mentioned Venezuela on the right, everybody freaks out. You mentioned Russia on the left, everybody freaks out. Mm-hmm. Everybody has, like you said before, everybody has these buzzwords that they obsess over.
Yeah, it's like we can't, as a nation, we can't seem to remember, 6 months ago anymore, or a year ago, or, that World War is bad, and we can't seem to remember that one, apparently.
No.
And, yeah, I can't even imagine the mindset you must be in a lot of the time having family in Iran, because, basically the deep state, or some of the bigger powers that be, have always had Iran in their crosshairs. It's...
Mm-hmm.
If you do buy, and I don't think these are even the crazier conspiracy theories, but that, is planned long before we even went to Afghanistan, that we were going into Afghanistan eventually, and Iraq and Iran and Syria. There's a whole natural resources theft that we've had planned out for a long time. And I almost think, honestly, it'll come down to the point where we're actually collaborating. I think we've actually been shadow collaborating with Russia and China, for kind of the resource wars. I think there's all this stuff about like climate change denial and stuff. The people at the top pulling the strings, they know what's going on with climate change. They're not going to let their people admit it, but they know how screwed things could get. And I think they're planning accordingly, and I think they're planning basically for, the 1% to survive it.
Wow.
And I don't know, that's my Alex Jonesism today, I guess.
No, you're right. I think that's right. See, listen, in this country, we need to learn to have conversations without everybody worrying about who you're going to get, attacking you. Oh, conspiracy theorist, and what is it? You're whining about the deep state because people are like, the deep state's not a real thing and stuff. Like, no, it's a real thing. We're having conversations about how corruption exists within our government, within our CIA, NSA. Like what? People don't think like, that the government is spying on us? Are people denying that now? Are people denying that, what Chelsea Manning, exposed? He exposed a really big thing within our government.
Yeah.
And people are, this poor woman now, he used to be a man, but, this poor woman is, was in jail, not even jail, like it was confined, it was solitary confinement, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I've heard most of it, yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible. Like, you don't deserve that, man. What kind of country are we living when we have that? When we have black, secret black sites, CIA black sites, stuff like that, where torture is taking place. Like, does nobody care about that? I don't really get it. Or they just
it
don't
really
know about
seems. I really think there's just some mechanism. I think it's a defense mechanism that isn't allowing a lot of people to even just accept it. They can't wrap their heads around that. What we've done to the environment may actually end the entire human race someday. I don't think people can. So I wish I couldn't. I wish I didn't think about these things most of the time.
Well, listen,
ignorance is bliss. Put me back in the Matrix.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but listen, I feel like there are a lot of people on the, not necessarily left, but they're on the left side of the spectrum that do believe in, okay, I want to have good health care, just, I guess some form of universal health care, good people that can be able to afford to go to college, getting, fixing our climate change slash global warming issue. But they just, again, going back to the whole party loyalism, you're just so loyal, you're just so wanting to be loyal to that party, wanting to love Barack Obama, wanting to love Hillary Clinton, pushing Oprah to become president, Beyonce to become president, The Rock to become president. You're just so caught up in all these, characters. It's like, it's almost like being in a sitcom. You just want to like shoot, celebrate these people that exist that aren't even really, they're puppets. Their strings are being pulled by puppet masters.
I think the loudest voices that kind of either don't get it or choose not to get it I hate to invoke the white privilege thing, but I think it's coming from a lot of that. And, it makes sense because, I mean, if something hasn't directly affected your life, unless you go out looking to learn about stuff like that and choose to be empathetic about things like that, it really is not going to enter your brain most of the time. And that's why you get upset when people are like, oh, Obama killed children. Like, oh, no, he was, he looked good on TV and he spoke well. How can that be true?
Yeah. I mean, at face value,
it does. Yeah. It boggles my mind. Obama assassinated a U.S. citizen,
I know.
And he just got some other award other than the Nobel Prize.
I know, I just heard about that. That's crazy. That's
the RFK award, I think it was.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it boggles my mind too. I'm just like, and that to me is one of our biggest problems, is that we have pretty much never, Nixon accepted, but he even got pardoned, ever really prosecuted one of the kings of this country. And I think we still have like this monarchy thing going on, and that there are literally some untouchables, and we can't have that in what's supposed to be a just society. There are war criminals that worked for our government walking around free today, and that's just obscene to me. And talk about deterrent, they're always talking about making harsher laws as a deterrent. Well, let's prosecute a president or two, and I'll bet you'll see presidents behaving a lot better.
Yeah, I would think so. Not just them, congressmen, all those kind of people. I mean, I was actually just talking to a friend of mine who was saying that he was having a conversation with somebody else that I knew on Twitter and stuff, and apparently this person was advocating for term limits. And my friend said, that's a right-wing idea. I don't know. Is that really a right-wing idea, the idea of term limits?
Oh, no, I think they do kind of trumpet that every now and then. I don't think they really mean it.
It's not a bad idea. I think that's a decent idea. Why not?
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely a great idea. I personally, I had a little idea a few years back that I thought the president should be like 1 6-year term, basically. Give a president 1 6-year term. Doesn't get to get reelected. Just go in there, be a good president, secure your legacy, do what's right for the country, you're done. And I think the same thing. I mean, it's just obscene that people like Nancy Pelosi have been in Congress for so long and are apparently so arrogant. I mean, the woman doesn't need to accumulate more money in her life, so it's about power at one point.
Yeah.
Once you reach like $200 million in net worth, you're not doing it for the $200,000 paycheck anymore. You're doing it for the power. I mean, even power might be the greatest addiction. Looking at it from that filter again.
Yeah, it's probably a combination. I would say it's definitely the power. They love it. They love being on top of the world like that, and
either that or they just have her grandkids in a cage somewhere waiting. They do what we say, or I don't know.
That I don't know. But
I just don't know. If I have $200 million, I ain't working anymore. I'm going chilling somewhere. I'm not going to be a congressman that everyone
exactly.
hates
So
me.
what's the incentive? What is the incentive? She already has millions. I don't know, however many, hundreds of millions of dollars. Same with Hillary Clinton. These people, what is their incentive? It's got to be power. But
yeah,
I don't know. But then what are you trying to get from that power? So you have the power, and then what are you going to do? You're just going to sit on your ass and just talk about how the rich are persecuted, like Hillary said, I think, and the big banks are persecuted, and we can't have Medicare for all because I don't know, Obamacare is so wonderful. I don't really get it,
No, it's boggled my mind for these 35-ish years I've been a voter. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it just seems to be playing over and over again the same loop, and very rarely you get someone like Bernie Sanders, hopefully, that is a lone voice in that wilderness, but that's why they try to drown him out, I guess, because they know what a threat he is. I mean, Medicare for all is such an existential threat to the system is that they can never let it happen. I mean, that's my theory, is that they can never let something like that happen because it will improve our country so vastly that they won't know what to do with it. Then people will be asking for other stuff like food, silly things like housing, and like, wait, why can't we do this? Why can't we go to college for free? It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, a society can't really advance at all unless everyone has basic needs dealt with.
Yeah,
Like food, shelter, health, and
exactly, and that's just the necessities. As far as like when it comes to obviously a conversation that a lot of us like to have is taxing the rich. So taxing the rich more, obviously lowering the taxes that people like us in the middle class have to deal with. If you give us more of our money back and less of their money back, we're going to be able to spend it in the economy.
It's absolutely basic economics.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It just keeps getting, we keep getting told it's crazy talk, and it's basic economics.
Who is saying that? Who is saying that that's crazy? I can't even imagine. That boggles my mind if anybody's actually saying that's crazy talk.
I mean, I guess anyone that's against a living wage. I mean, and the whole, if you raise the minimum wage, businesses will crumble left and right.
Is that true? Like, what is the basis of that? I don't even get that.
There's been some models. I mean, I don't have any stats in front of me, but a couple cities that have gone like $15 an hour have not had businesses closing en masse. Some are going to. The market is going to weed out the chaff from the wheat, or separate the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah.
I have a theory I'm working on about universal basic income and how it's actually a very capitalist system. That you want pure capitalism, you want pure free market, give people enough to live on, and then I'm almost actually, if we had a UBI in this country, I would almost be for abolishing the minimum wage. If you could give people a UBI, because then the market really takes over. I don't know, I'm probably going to get some shit for this one. But if everyone could get their basic needs provided, or pretty close to it, and if they don't want to work after that, then fine, and people can call them bums or whatever.
Right.
But the people that are going to choose to work, that want a little more scratch in their lives, have some little luxuries, the businesses let's put it this way, McDonald's is going to have to pay people to come work for them at that point. They're going to have to pay them well. Any business that wants to survive and wants good employees is going to have to fork over the money at that point. Because if you don't have to work, the places that are going to need you to work, because everyone's going to still want their McDonald's and everything, are going to have to put up or shut up, and
That's true.
And I don't think prices would be able to, there's a fear that, we give everyone $1,000 a month and then milk's going to be $8 a gallon. I don't know. You'd have to do some kind of legislative ban on serious inflation and things like that. But I think that you'd have a lot of businesses dying, but I think what would be left over would be more pure capitalism that, all the people on the right and libertarians all say they want in our system. You can't really have your libertarian utopia unless people can, actually have agency in their own existence and their own future and be able to afford basic needs.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, the people on the right, and I agree with a lot of things on libertarians when it comes to social issues, because they do believe in, just pure freedom. Just, you're allowed to have sex with anybody you want. You're allowed to marry whoever you want. You're allowed to, you're allowed to advocate for your government not to go bomb 8 different countries at once. Like, I totally get it. But when it comes to economic issues, their ideas don't really hash out all that well. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Falls apart.
And you can ideally say that same thing about communism to some level, which I think that brings me to my next question is, what do you think about the whole idea of everybody talking about how, capitalism is horrible? Capitalism sucks.
Late stage capitalism sucks, and we're in the middle of it right now.
Yeah, so it's not so the free market capitalism you were talking about, which is that's a pipe dream for us at this point, because everybody's interpreting capitalism to just be like this completely corrupt capitalism, corporate capitalism. But the real capitalism is not bad. It's not a bad thing if you go by the actual principle of what capitalism is, which is what they're doing in Scandinavia.
Yeah, and I've been, just to give my little history a little bit, I was a Democratic voter, or a registered Democratic. I've never been just a Democratic voter. Since I turned 18. They lost me in 2010 when I learned hope and change was more of the same.
Bullshit.
And I went to independent, and I've always voted, mostly for my values. I'll admit I probably did a couple hold your nose votes, just to, I played the party politics for a while too. They started losing me before 2010 because
Yeah.
I said I used to write on a site, Democratic Underground, and
Yeah, yeah.
when Obama's second term was rolling around, I guess this would have been 2012, but
Right.
I actually went back there for a while to see what the state of things was, and I was one of those people that I'll always encourage a primary of a president. If he's not doing the job, if someone else can do it better, get in there and primary any president. I don't buy this
Bernie did that.
incumbent. Yeah,
Bernie did that.
yeah,
He pushed for that. They hated him. They were like, "Oh my God, how dare you?
yeah.
You're besmirching the honor of President Obama."
Yep,
Yeah.
I was too, and I didn't even know about Bernie back then. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, yeah, why wouldn't
Yeah.
you? I just don't. I've never been cool with limited choices in our government. I've never liked the duopoly. I'm one of those scumbags that voted for Nader and got us pushed. So
I was
throw
gonna
your
ask
stones.
you. I was gonna ask you about that. My dad did the same thing too.
Yeah, I mean, why you don't own my vote until you earn it, and that's
Oh
always
yeah.
been my thing. That's always been my belief in this country. And yeah, the whole thing with my friends are about ready to do an intervention on me as far as how much I bash the Democrats and Clinton in
Fuck
general.
that. You don't need an intervention. You
No,
don't need
but
it.
I mean, some friends of mine are just a little stuck in the like, wow, man, you don't bash Trump as much. What do you like Trump? I'm like,
Yeah.
why? Who needs to bash Trump? He lays it out there
Yeah.
on the table every goddamn day.
Yeah, really.
It's not a chore. I want to wake up the people that are blinded by the Democratic Party that thinks they're actually serving their purpose. They're
Exactly.
good. And it's like, no, man, it's easy to see the idiot on the TV. It's these covert fuckers that I want to out, and make you realize they haven't been working for you. For decades, they haven't been
Yes.
working for you.
Yes, dude.
And that's
Trump is
not
the
gonna
easiest
change.
punching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. It's
He's-
almost unbelievable how much his tweets this morning about the whole Omarosa thing were just like, oh my God, dude. He literally said something to the effect of like, I know I'm not being presidential, but someone said something mean about me.
Right.
Like, oh my God,
He's a baby. Like, I
we're
get
in
it. Like,
simulation
why do I-
here or something.
exactly. Yeah. Why do we have to go after that? Why do I have to call out some guy that is obviously trying to troll everybody? He wants everybody to get mad about what he says. He wants to go out there. Because why else is he tweeting? He's not tweeting because he's actually trying to put out like a substantive idea.
Right.
Here's my idea for an economic policy or a foreign policy idea. No, he's trying to trigger people, and what happens? They get triggered. Easy, no
It's
problem. It happens.
completely
without fail.
detached from reality, and apparently enough of his people can't see it that they don't do some kind of intervention themselves.
Yeah.
But I just don't get it.
By the way, speaking of which, did you see recently Wikileaks came out and I think they responded. Yeah, they responded to a tweet from Brian Stelter, the host on CNN, talking about how WikiLeaks, something involving Trump and WikiLeaks, and then WikiLeaks, they tweeted to Brian Stelter, and they said, yeah, Trump has been, he's been doing a war on the press since since he became president. We've been calling him out for that. Julian Assange has always stood up for that. Against what Trump's doing, against what Obama was doing, and then all these Trump supporters they're responding to WikiLeaks and they're saying, "Oh, it looks like WikiLeaks is being taken over by the CIA.
Oh,
It looks like they're being run by the deep state." And then another person, a couple other people were like, "Oh, so I guess ever since Assange left WikiLeaks, I don't know when that was, but whatever they say, when he left WikiLeaks, now WikiLeaks is not standing up for the right thing." Like, these are not serious people. These are not serious thinkers.
Oh, well, the mainstream media, like CNN and MSNBC, even like calling out Trump for his war on the press is kind of absurd to me anyway, because they're not the press. They're just as much a propaganda wing of the establishment as Fox News is. It's bread and circuses. It's WWE wrestling.
Yeah.
They all have beers in the same bars together after the broadcast, and it's just all. I just see the script in it so clearly. It's not that some news stations don't report the truth; they're just lying by omission.
It's a spin on the truth.
Yemen, is anybody covering our imperialistic shit across the world? No, not really, and it's another obscenity of our country. And they're still just trying to spin things. It's just so obvious. I just don't understand why more people can't see it. It's like these people are paid for by the same soulless fucking corporations that are screwing us all. How do you think that they're telling us the truth?
But the thing that bothers me is the people like us at our level, so just
Hmm.
regular people living their everyday workaday lives. Those are the people when they come out in favor of this party or that president or this president. That's what I don't understand. Like those people are just so easily duped. They have to be like they have to be just idiots. I'm sorry. Like you got to just be an idiot to watch. So like these people watch CNN. These people watch MSNBC. You know, these people watch Fox News and they just believe everything they hear there. But while MSNBC and Fox News are the worst in the sense of like ideological purity,
Yeah.
CNN is really bad because CNN likes to pretend like everybody is a serious character.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Yeah.
you know, like, oh yeah, we can have conversations with, I don't know, you know, all their stupid guests they bring on. They bring on like Anna Navarro and all these people, and like they were bringing like Kayleigh McEnany and like all these just like weird right wingers that are like they're so opportunistic in their tone. And
Yeah.
like one right winger would be like, I hate Trump. You know, Trump is a terrible person. But then let me go and advocate for the same policies that he's pushing, but I
Right.
just don't want it to be done by him.
Right.
You know?
Well, you know.
And then you have another right winger who's like, oh yeah, Trump is awesome. Trump is a great person, and he's everything he says, you know, making excuses for him. I'm like, listen, dude, how can any like these are not people that like anybody should be even watching. And that's what's so surprising about this Trump era, because when Obama was president, people weren't watching cable news for reasons of hating Obama. They just watched it because it was just there.
Yeah.
Now people definitely want to watch cable news because all they do is shit on Trump, and for the stupidest reasons, not reasons pertaining to real issues. You know?
Well, they're all playing to the lowest common denominator brain of their audience, and you know from I said I learned primarily like newspaper journalism, but I'm sure you got the same spiel in broadcast, in that it's the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. You know, you're supposed to assume your audience has about a 6th grade education,
Yeah.
which doesn't really serve those of us with higher than a 6th grade education very well, or it makes it pretty boring for us.
It does.
But God forbid we should try to educate our viewers instead of just playing to
Right.
how stupid they are.
Yeah.
When I learned journalism, I thought I was supposed to be educating people. Silly me. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of the system that's in place, and I think it's a dying paradigm, though, and I think they know it, and I think that's why it moves more and more towards just propaganda and feel-good stuff, and let's tell our audience what we think they want to hear,
Yeah.
and make them think everything's okay or things are going to be okay because we're on it. And I think people like you and me have, you know, go and find news sources that we know isn't going to be propagandized, and then get different perspectives. And I like to read a lot of international news. I mean, you don't really have a good view of your own country by listening to the news from your own country. You go see what other
No.
people think of you.
I know. And that's why I like about RT. That's why I like about Press TV, which is like, I think it's an Iranian-funded outlet, and you know, like these are, you know, like Al Jazeera is a good one. You know, Al Jazeera Plus is also very good. Like these are all outlets that you can definitely broaden your horizons, because our current mainstream media, yeah, it's American media. It's not another country where, you know, maybe you might get a biased perspective from that specific country. So in the case of Al Jazeera, it's Qatar, Press TV is Iran, RT is Russia. But at least they're giving you different forms of information. You know,
Right.
yeah, it's not the most objective thing in the world, but neither is our media. Our media is horrible. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
a joke. And they advocate for, or they shill for the U.S. government. So no matter what, somebody's shilling for somebody. So it doesn't really matter.
Well, I had a friend describe kind of the politics ball, and it applies to the media too well the other day, and he said something to the effect of, it's like, you know, you should always listen to the extreme opinions on either side, extreme opposing opinions. You listen to the middle, you're going to get kind of this watered down assessment of the situation where there are good people on both sides, quote unquote. But if you listen to the extremes, usually one extreme opinion is a lot closer to the real truth than the other extreme opinion. You just got to find out which one is closer to the truth. The middle is never going to be the closest to the truth. It's going to be somewhere on the fringes, because it's the center that wants to kind of keep things balanced and on an even keel, and a lot of the world doesn't work on an even keel. And sometimes there are extreme truths for every situation. If that made
Yeah.
any sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I don't do that, but I can understand the sentiment.
Yeah.
I can understand the sentiment of wanting to listen to voices that are on the so-called extremes. But
Well, things like
the
I honestly like Alex Jones. Back to him, I had never followed him on Twitter until this actually all went down, and then
Mhm.
Jack made his big statement, the owner of Twitter, that he wasn't taking him down. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to follow him just to keep track of the fucker and see what's going on. And
yeah, I'm not interested.
no,
I see people tweeting about him. I'm like, okay,
I
that's cool.
used
That's
to
funny.
watch some of his clips just like when he'd go, just to laugh, like when he'd get off on his super sweaty rants and ripping his shirt off and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Talking
Um,
about gay frogs and hobbit
right,
homes.
yeah,
And,
I love the Gay Frogs video.
the gay frogs one is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I don't even get that. I don't even know what he's talking about.
but I'm a firm believer of keep your friends close and your enemies
Yeah.
closer. Keep track
Yeah,
of what
yeah.
the crazies are doing.
That's
And
a
that-
really old school person. That's a really old school saying, but it makes sense.
And that's another reason I actually think we should give the crazies
Yeah.
a voice. I think you need to keep track of them. I think if you drive them completely back underground, it's harder to see. I want to know what Alex Jones's conspiracy du jour is, because maybe it'll affect. Maybe he wants to blow up disabled old guys that live in
Right.
my town. I don't know,
Right.
and I'm going to prepare for that if that's the case. But how am I
Yeah.
going to know about it if nobody knows what he's saying except for his loyal little band of zealots?
Yeah, as long as you as long as you go into it just like any other thing, you go into it with an open mind, and you are able to assess it in a kind of nuanced manner, and just be like, oh yeah, wow, he's really right or he's really wrong. Then you're probably not gonna you're gonna come out looking a lot more better to other people, and you're gonna be a lot more open minded. You're gonna be able to accept any opinion,
Yeah.
as far as like wanting to hear it, not necessarily agreeing with it. That's
Right.
the difference. Yeah, you can accept to listen to it. Like you saying, you want to listen to Alex Jones and keep your enemies closer. I get it. I mean, that's not something I would do, but I understand it. Again, it's a matter of understanding where people come from, and when it comes to the people that actually do listen to Alex Jones and all these different white supremacist types, and I don't know, I guess they love Richard Spencer or something, I don't know, whatever they do, but they do that because that middle is separating everybody and dividing everybody to go to those far left or far right extremes. But the difference between the so-called far right extreme and the so-called far left extreme is that our far left ideas are actually popular.
Right.
Whereas the far right extremes are just stupid. They're just
They're popular with
ridiculous.
about 18% of the country
Yeah.
at this point.
And I was making an argument on Twitter, which I got a little bit of flack from the people that you and I have been talking to, and I gave credit to for defending Alex Jones. But I said, like, listen, the white supremacist culture, the actual neo-Nazi culture, is not ridiculously big to the point that we need to fear that they're going to take over this country.
Right, yeah.
So we've got.
I'm not
we've
sure
got
I agreed with you, unfortunately, but
But the thing is that let me make my case, and
Yeah.
of course you can disagree. But I think the way I look at it is that we have such a diverse population in this country. Nobody is going to allow a bunch of racist assholes with hoods on their heads, wearing goofy ass looking dresses, with holding crosses and burning those things that they have in their hands. Nobody is like falling for that, being like, yeah, you know what, that person is really. They make a lot of sense to me. Like,
Yeah.
who's buying into that? Nobody. And everybody's going to do everything they can to fight those people and resist those people from taking over this country. Now, if you want to talk about which one person did mention, a lot of this mentality has taken over in the police departments. It's taken over, in the way the people, obviously the trigger happy cops are, killing black people, killing minorities. The mentality is there, yeah, but I think that's just a mentality of just. I mean, that was the same mentality that existed during the civil rights movement, right? So, in that sense, the police haven't really changed. In that sense, the kind of authoritarianism hasn't really changed. But I just don't think that white supremacists are going to be taking over this country to the point that anybody's even going to stand for it. So
Well,
that's
I
just
don't. I don't think. Well, that's all subjective. I mean, if
yeah.
part of what I consider some of the independent journalism I've done is when I drove taxi on Fort Drum, where Mr. Trump just was today, near my hometown.
Right.
I interviewed a bunch of soldiers coming back from the war on terror, Iraq and Afghanistan, and literally probably hundreds of them. And that's the column I used to write on Democratic Underground.
Hmm.
That was my taxi stories from soldiers. And I straight up met a lot of white supremacist soldiers. I mean, like Aryan Nation, flat out, definitely, Klan members and things like that. So I do believe, and I know the FBI has been tracking, some infiltration in police forces, and it's obvious in some places. But I mean, I think there has been a very coordinated infiltration of some places of power by them too. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I'm saying there's probably going to be enough of them to cause a bit of a ruckus if they ever get their dream of a race war. And I truly believe that all these shootings by cops lately is a result of a couple things, and I think a lot of it is straight up racism, and some people just want to kill people of color. Yeah. So that's always going to happen in somebody's brain for some reason. And a lot of it's also just, I mean, it almost goes past racism into just police state and authoritarian.
That's what I think it is. I think it's a police state issue.
Yeah.
I think it's the police
it's just
and the government
disproportionately affecting people of color, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. So that's because let's be honest. I mean, I think a lot of these white cops, they're just scared of black people.
Yeah.
And they're scared of minorities. They're afraid that these people can do anything. They're standing there, not doing anything, and all of a sudden they're either punching them or shooting them, or tackling them, and But the thing is like the worst form of non-minority, so not focused on minority, I guess abuse, if you want to call it minority discrimination, was when Occupy Wall Street happened. Mm-hmm. Now they were going into it was mainly in New York, but they were going into the park in New York there where all those Occupy Wall Street protests were, and they were pepper spraying the shit out of them.
Yeah.
It also happened in Berkeley too. Berkeley, I used to live in the Bay Area, and in Berkeley, they were going on the UC Berkeley campus, just pepper spraying the shit out of all these kids that are sitting on the ground, blockading, creating like a chain.
Yeah, we actually had an Occupy movement in my city too, Rochester, that experienced similar things. Yes,
exactly. So that's it's more about the police state and the general government, deep state, trying to silence people from resisting.
Well, it's the oligarchy. I mean, it's literally our police forces, our armed forces exist to protect the oligarchy at this point. I mean, and what are cops always protecting? When there's almost a riot situation, you always see them lined up around in front of stores and things. They're protecting people's businesses, which as cops they should be doing, yes, but not at the expense of freedom of speech and the right to protest.
Well, I mean, I can see cops getting upset if there's like situations where buildings are being burnt down, kind of like what happened at the LA riots in kind of the early to mid 90s and stuff. That was bad. I was actually living in LA because I was born in LA, and then I moved to the Bay Area, and then I came back to LA, where I am now. And my parents said it was awful. It was just so you couldn't even drive in the street without an African American person thinking that you're a white person and just start throwing bricks at your car.
Yeah.
Like that's scary.
Like, I honestly don't know how that doesn't go on daily in this country. I mean,
and I totally understand their anger. There's no reason to poo-poo that kind of behavior in the sense that you're angry, and I get it. But it was just thinking about it, thinking a bit about how I was a kid and like how I would have reacted to if I'd seen that, and which I did not.
Yeah.
But if I had seen that, I would have freaked out. I would have been like, "Oh my God, it's the end of the world,"
Yeah.
So. Yeah. I don't know, but you're right. A race war is no doubt taking place in this country. The cops are not making it better, but I also don't think the existence of Antifa, which I know is another way of saying anti-fascist.
Yeah.
But these people going around and punching Nazis, I don't think it's helping anything.
I'm so torn on this situation. I'm still actually torn on the Alex Jones thing, and
Right.
someone kind of took me to task the other day in
Right.
one of the same threads we were in, and especially about, and I got thinking about this. She's like, you shouldn't call them Nazis. That's kind of a disrespect to people who actually experience. Yeah, and I'm less. I understood her position. And in a way, she's right. These aren't the same Nazis in the 40s, but I mean,
they're not.
I'm like, if the ideology is the same, then they're the same. If the ideology of killing 8 million people is what these people believe in, then they need to be opposed. And I almost feel like a hypocrite because I am for, as I said, I've been standing up for Alex Jones, God help me, but not really, kids. I don't like Alex Jones. It's not about him. It really isn't about him.
It isn't.
No. But I mean, again, they banned the Proud Boys, and I didn't stand up for the Proud Boys on Twitter, and as I said, this person was taking your position, kind of the Antifa can cause more troubles. But then again, what did we just see? We just saw 20 neo-Nazis come out in Charlottesville.
Yeah, exactly. That's
as opposed to hundreds last year, and
exactly.
So they're working. If they threaten these idiots from getting in the streets, or the threat of Antifa has kept these idiots from marching in the streets.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody to think that I believe that Antifa is a big threat. I just don't believe that they are on the left. I don't believe that their efforts are necessarily helpful to the left. I don't think they're doing us, me, you, other people out there are progressives that I believe are leftist progressives. And by the way, there are many leftist progressives, I thought they were, but they believe in Antifa. They support Antifa. They push for the punching Nazis thing. But I just don't think it's benefiting anybody. You're just giving them what you want. When Richard Spencer got punched by that one random hooded person in that video, it's become a popular gif now. Like everybody they love playing that as if it's a good thing. Richard Spencer wants that, man. Right. He wants you to punch him.
Right, and after that, he doesn't really show up much anymore. But he just, people of his ilk and Milo there, Yana Fuckopolis or whatever his last name is.
Yeah, yeah.
Why is anyone giving me a microphone, Milo? I think they kind of insinuate themselves into situations with the hope of being able to play the victim card. But then, after you get punched once or twice, like Richard Spencer did, maybe maybe I need a better plan for getting my name out there.
And that's another thing. They play the victim card. I can't stand that they play the victim card. I don't want Richard Spencer to be a victim because he's not.
No.
But he becomes one if he gets punched. Same with, anybody, Milo Yiannopoulos, Ben Shapiro, Alex Jones, whatever happens to these people, whether it's punching, whether it's being deplatformed, something always comes to the point where they use that and they milk the shit out of it. And I don't want them to milk the shit out of it. I just don't.
Right.
That's just me, though.
I want to state that I stand up for the rights of the Proud Boys or whoever, neo-Nazis, real Nazis, Cthulhu worshippers. I don't care. I support your right to protest and march. I don't really understand what the hell you're protesting. Your main impotence for protest is I'm afraid of not being the majority in this country anymore. Then get the fuck out of here. But
I know. Go to Europe.
I definitely understand the resistance, though, and the feeling, and I'm not going to ever disparage someone that's going to go risk life and limb to oppose fascism. Do I think they should have to hit Nazis? No, I would always let
unless they hit you. If the Nazis are hitting you, hit back.
Right, but I mean that seems like, with their rhetoric, that seems like a perceived threat that I think is legitimate. They're all trying to bring the 20 of them were trying to bring in wooden poles, flag poles to this thing. And luckily, the DC cops stopped them, much to the chagrin of the organizer there. But I think in any group, Antifa, hippies, Black Panthers, Black Lives Matter, neo-Nazis, there's always going to be some people that are going to do violence. It's inevitable when you get gatherings of passionate people.
Exactly.
And the group is always going to get stuck with that, too, unfortunately. So, but I mean, there's no way for Antifa to tell everybody that decides to be Antifa that, okay, we're not going to do any violence, because it's going to happen. Because you've got two very volatile ideologies clashing with each other. And
exactly.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with generally Nazis getting punched, but I do acknowledge that if we start crossing that line over and over again, it just escalates. And
Exactly.
I unfortunately don't have a lot of faith that it's not going to escalate worse than this. I have kind of a very grim view of our country at this point. It depresses the hell out of me sometimes.
Yeah,
but,
me too.
I don't think a lot of things are going to get done without some blood and fire in the streets.
Unfortunately, yeah. I hate to admit that. I hate to agree with you, but it's true.
Yeah.
And on that note, rest in peace to Heather Heyer.
Yeah.
1 year ago, I believe it was yesterday,
yeah.
she got terribly killed for really no fucking reason. I mean, she was a protester. She probably wasn't involved in any kind of fighting, no kind of violence, nothing, and she gets killed. And hope. I don't know what happened this time around when they had a protest. Because they did have another protest in Charlottesville, right?
Yeah, I think the main one was D.C. though, because I've been reading stories about how they get their own metro train and shit. And
right, yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, so hopefully this stuff doesn't happen again.
Yeah, well, like 20 of them showed up in 1,000 Antifa,
right.
and they
oh wow, okay.
They turned tail and went home basically. So
okay,
behind a wall of cops that were protecting them.
Right.
So
all right, Scott. Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you. So free.
What do you want to plug anything? Do you want to send people to your
if you can reconcile my nerd habits with my political stuff. I do several podcasts over on twotruefreaks.com. Twotruefreaks.com. You spell it all out. TWO.
Okay.
I'll send you the link so you can throw it up in the description if you want. I do one on like superhero TV shows and movies. I used to do one on video games. I do one that covers the Walking Dead shows.
Yeah, I see your Batman picture.
Yeah, and I do nothing on Batman yet because they won't let him on TV. But
okay.
But that whole network, I mean, I encourage anyone that likes pop culture stuff to check it out. We have like a good 30-ish podcasts that cover everything from giant monster movies to just music to everything like pop culture you can think of, but usually skews towards comic book stuff, or Star Trek or Star Wars or really anything, We don't have that Hunger Games podcast yet, but
okay.
I don't think we really need that in this world.
All right. And your Twitter handle is at SKOT69. Scott69.
Yep.
Great. All right. Okay. All right, Scott. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
And thank you everybody for listening. And we should have a new podcast tomorrow. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.